Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive workplace mystery, the anatomy of human behavior. Basically, why do we act the way we do the second we clock in? I mean, you've probably wondered why one colleague completely thrives in a high-pressure crisis while another completely panics. Or why some people naturally command a boardroom while others prefer to quietly analyze data in the background. Well, today we're going to decode all of that. So let's start by literally stripping back the mask. The word personality actually comes from the Latin word persona, and back in the day, that referred to the physical masks worn by actors in ancient theater to play different characters. Obviously, the concept has evolved. Today, it doesn't just mean your outward appearance. In the context of organizational behavior, your personality is the relatively enduring, stable inner psychological patterns that shape how you think, feel, and interact. It's that totally unique integration of characteristics that stays consistent no matter what crazy situation you get thrown into. Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. First, behind the mask. What is personality? Second, determining who we are, the ingredients. Third, the big 5 traits. Fourth, personality types at work. And finally, theories and human models. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Behind the mask. What is personality? Look, personality isn't just some abstract psych concept, it is a hard business metric. Huge companies know this. Giants like Google actively assess for openness to fuel their relentless drive for innovation. Mega IT firms, think TCS and Infosys, they're looking for conscientiousness because it's a massive predictor of whether project deliveries will actually be successful. Meanwhile, airlines like Jet Airways and Indigo, they actively test for emotional stability when recruiting cabin crew. They're using these inner psychological patterns to purposefully build highly functional teams. Moving on to Section 2. Determining who we are, the ingredients. The crucial thing to remember is that your personality doesn't just randomly happen. It's actively baked in from 3 major determinants. First up is hereditary. That's your biological, physiological, and inherent psychological makeup. Second is your environment. This is the culture you were raised in, your early conditioning, the whole upbringing shebang. And third is the situation. Your stable traits can actually be challenged or completely altered by really specific, intense life events or the unique demands of a new environment. It's the unique combination of these 3 ingredients that creates your specific mask. Section 3. The big 5 traits. Let's break down the big 5, starting with openness. This trait is all about imagination, creativity, curiosity, and just having a broad-minded willingness to try out new ideas. If you score high here, you're highly innovative and flexible. And that perfectly explains why folks with this trait are the ideal candidates for R&D, strategy, and design thinking roles. Next up, we've got conscientiousness. If you are highly disciplined, highly organized, and you never ever miss a deadline, you're exhibiting this trait. These folks work incredibly hard and have a massive drive to achieve. Conscientiousness strongly predicts success in operations, administration, and finance. Areas where being dependable and responsible is absolutely non-negotiable. Then there's extroversion. Extroverts bring this incredible energy, assertiveness, and sociability to the table. They're talkative, enthusiastic, and usually have killer networking skills. Because they literally recharge and draw immense energy from interacting with others, they're natural fits for roles in sales, marketing, HR, and public relations. Our 4th trait is agreeableness. This one is all about compassion, cooperation, and empathy. People who are highly agreeable are friendly, tolerant, and incredibly supportive. This is exactly why these individuals absolutely thrive and find deep satisfaction in nurturing fields like customer service, healthcare, and teaching. And wrapping up the big 5, we have emotional stability. This trait allows people to maintain absolute calmness, resilience, and confidence. They handle stress exceptionally well and keep steady even when everything around them is going wrong. It's an absolute necessity for intense fields like crisis management, defense, and the medical profession. Section 4. Personality types at work. Okay, quick pause here because it's incredibly important to separate traits from types. Traits refer to highly specific behavioral characteristics, like being shy or being aggressive. Think of them like individual puzzle pieces. Personality types, on the other hand, classify individuals into broader, overarching patterns that reflect dominant tendencies. That's the fully assembled puzzle. Understanding types is the secret sauce that helps managers place individuals into roles that actually match their natural orientation. Enter one of the most famous tools for this, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI. It evaluates broader dimensions of human behavior. The first dimension looks at extroversion versus introversion. Basically, do you focus your energy on the outer world of people or the inner world of ideas? The second dimension compares sensing versus intuition, meaning, do you prefer concrete, measurable facts, or do you lean more towards abstract possibilities and big picture thinking? Then, it categorizes how you operate through two more dimensions. You've got thinking versus feeling, which asks if you make your decisions based primarily on objective logic or on subjective emotions and values. And finally, judging versus perceiving. This looks at whether you prefer a highly structured, planned environment or if you're someone who prefers flexibility and spontaneity. When you combine those four dimensions, it gives us some really specific, powerful prototypes for the workplace. For example, take an ENTJ, someone who is extroverted, intuitive, thinking, and judging. They're naturally assertive and strategic, pretty much wired to be a CEO or a project leader. Now contrast that with an ISFJ, who is highly reliable and detail-focused, making them exceptionally suited for administration or nursing. By understanding these broader types, organizations can actually align an employee's natural strengths with the right career path. Section 5. Theories and Human Models. Let's dig a bit below the surface now. The first major perspective is Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory. Freud basically argued that what we see on the outside is just the tip of the iceberg. He proposed that human behavior is largely influenced by unconscious forces and early childhood experiences. A huge part of this is the id, that primitive instinct within us that constantly seeks immediate satisfaction and pleasure, totally regardless of workplace rules. Understanding this really helps explain some of those deeply ingrained, sometimes totally irrational workplace behaviors. On the flip side, we have social learning theory, which shifts the focus outward. This theory highlights that we actively learn and absorb behaviors by observing our environment. This is exactly why corporate mentorship programs are so incredibly vital today. When training programs use role modeling, or when employees learn ethical values simply by observing their leaders, that is social learning theory in action. It proves that a positive workplace culture heavily dictates personality expression. So all of this culminates in what we call the models of man. Let's face it, human nature is just too complex and messy to track individually. So managers use simplified prototypes, like the rational economic man, who is motivated purely by money and structure, or the social man, who is driven by team belonging and relationships. Figuring out which fundamental model drives your employee is absolutely essential if you want to influence their behavior and manage them effectively. We've covered a ton of ground today, from the biological ingredients of personality to the big 5 traits, all the way to the deep psychological theories that govern our actions. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Take a second and look inward. Which model of man best described you? And more importantly, how is the mask you wear every single day impacting your team's effectiveness? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I hope this helps you decode the anatomy of your own workplace behavior.